I've been a person on a team that, that shined, okay? And my boss tapped me on my shoulder and he said, "You're gonna go do some training." This literally happened to me. Right. And at the time, I was really nerding out, working on my programs, on my software development, my flow charts, me and my computer, we were having a blast. I had no intentions of going out training and doing anything. And I was voluntold to do that.
Right. Gotta love being voluntold.
When you're driven, the need to accomplish a goal is relentless. Hard work and ambition compel you to do whatever's necessary. In my work as a personal injury trial lawyer for 18 years, it's common to meet driven people. Those with drive can have different personalities, careers, or backgrounds, but they possess one common factor. Despite their passions, driven people want to surround and motivate themselves with other driven people. If you want to learn how to overcome obstacles by learning from others, then tune in here. This is the Driven Crowd Podcast.
Thank you for tuning into episode 82 of the Driven Crowd Podcast, fueled by Snellings Law. I'm your host, Scott Snellings. Today, I'm joined by Dr. Lisa Hammonds. Dr. Hammonds is the founder of Dove Training and Innovations and a passionate, results-driven learning experience and development consultant. She's partnered with clients across higher education, technology, nonprofits, and government, guiding them to reimagine and improve training design and delivery. Dr. Hammonds specializes in designing and delivering customized training that fosters self-awareness, strategic thinking, and practical application. Her signature Train the Trainer program empowers trainers, coaches, educators, and speakers to confidently design and facilitate engaging sessions that connect with learners, build a lasting impact, and drive transformation. Dr. Hammonds, welcome to the Driven Crowd Podcast.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
All right. Well, so let's start off and tell me kind of where you grew up and how you got to where you are today.
So, fun fact, I grew up not far from here.
All right.
Yeah, right.
Texas girl?
Uh-huh. And I mean literally not far from this area. And I've lived here up until college. And then that's when I went to Houston to attend University of Houston. Then, got married, my family. Then we moved to San Antonio. So I've lived all over. And now I'm back here. Well, not back. I live in Fort Worth now.
Okay. Just down the road.
Down the road.
As far as Texas goes, just down the road.
Just down the road.
All right. Where'd you do your undergrad at?
At University of Houston.
University of Houston. Okay. And then where did you get your graduate schooling at?
So graduate school is Texas Wesleyan here in Fort Worth.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And what kind of program did you get your graduate degree in?
So I got my master's in education my bachelor's is in math and computer science.
Oh, okay. All right.
And
your brain works totally differently than mine does.
Yeah. And with no intentions to go into education, might I add. But then
I wouldn't imagine too many computer scientists end up wanting to be teachers or go into education at all.
Yeah. And that was me. And we can talk more about that. And then I decided I wanted to get into education, but I wanted to know more about how things work in that arena. So I got a master's in education. And then I just decided this is amazing. So I pursued a doctorate in educational leadership. So I'm excited.
Yeah, you got into that school and you're like, hey, I kind of dig this. I'm going to go get more and more of it.
Yeah.
All right. So let's go back. How did you decide to get into computer science?
Great question. And oddly enough, so my mom was an educator and she thought that I would be a good teacher. Okay. And I said, no.
Like, nothing to do with that, Mom.
Yeah, no. But I actually had a love for math. And so that's where the notion of, logical thinking and being able to perhaps handle some computer science topics. And so I pursued that at the undergraduate level, the computer science courses, as electives. And I will say that I struggled, but I enjoyed it. And so then I said, let's do it. Let's do it.
I love the fact that you say you struggled, but you enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Because I think, especially when it comes to math, I always struggle. I never enjoyed it because I just didn't conceptually get it. But on some of my favorite classes, they were not easy classes.
Right.
They were the ones where you really had to dig in and think and study. And usually my favorite classes were the ones where I knew the professors. And I knew the professors because I needed their help understanding something or getting through something or reviewing something for me. And I think that's a really interesting trait that a lot of driven individuals have is they really end up enjoying those things that are difficult.
Right. Right. No, that's right. And I shared the experience of having a teacher in my undergrad program that sort of instilled in us that you may struggle, but you can do it. And that's when I thought, okay, I'm struggling so that I can do it. And I did. And I enjoyed those upper level math classes that everybody was dying because that was part of the reason why they didn't pursue a math degree. And yeah, it was wonderful.
Wow. So I would imagine coming out with a math degree and computer science, were you heavily recruited by the government?
Not really. Actually, the insurance agency. I was insurance industry. Actuarial science was one of the areas that I was really heavily recruited to do. Mm-hmm.
And you had zero interest in going into actuarial science?
No.
All right, so what did you do after you graduated with your math degree?
I ended up going into software development. I was living in Houston. Houston's a big manufacturing town, lots of industry there. And I ended up just working as a staff software developer. And it was amazing. That's where I really embraced that lifelong learning. The struggle for me ended up being the fact that there was always something to learn. And so for a while there, while you feel comfortable in an area, and then you say, I'm good here. And then all of a sudden now you have to learn more. So you have to kind of lean into being kind of uncomfortable. And I was able to do that. And I enjoyed it. It was always, learning new algorithms, learning stuff, watching the computer do things, failing. All that stuff was just so much fun.
Wow. You are really embracing this love of learning and failure.
Yes.
So kind of fast forwarding to teaching teachers and putting together these training programs. Mm-hmm. How much of that embracing failure, embracing that struggle, do you build into those programs?
Oh my God, that's a great question. Because that's an adult learning philosophy. Seriously. Tapping into learners' background and giving them an opportunity to try. That's probably the biggest thing that I face when I'm out trying to support training is that folks want to impart knowledge into you, right? And they're nervous about you trying on your own and failing, but failing is feedback, right? It's an opportunity to learn. And so many places have these required outcomes. And so they feel like they just really aren't able to allow that trial and error period. And so that's where I shine. I come in and I say, that's learning.
Absolutely. Learning. We have a case manager that we're training right now. She started for us yesterday. And, she has experience, really smart lady, but we're training her on different software, different systems and processes, and just how we do things our own way. And I asked our head of operations, Alyssa, when do you think she'll be ready to take on her own cases? And she's like, well, I want her to do a shadow day here, and then we're going to give her cases. And to me, I'm like, ooh, but that's just a few days training. Like, are we sure? She's like, hey, there's nothing that she's going to do that she can mess up too badly because we're watching her and we can correct it. And she needs to be able to do the thing. Right? You got to be able to not just know where the buttons are. You got to go press the buttons.
That's right.
To make sure that you're pressing the right buttons. And if you don't press the right buttons, well, now don't press those buttons, press these buttons.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
And I say that because a lot of what we do is driven by our case management system. And so there's task flows where you click a button, hey, I completed this, and then two other things pop up, or an auto-generated document or things like that. And so you can absolutely press wrong buttons and create a little havoc. But at the same time, if you never let the person do the thing, then they're never going to be able to learn how to do the thing.
Correct.
And so part of that is us knowing, hey, we got to be a little patient when our case management system gets screwed up on a case because the wrong button was hit. We know how to undo it all anyway. So but I think that goes directly to what you're talking about is you have to be able to give those people the space to mess up and tell them, look, we know you're going to mess up.
Right.
It's okay. Let's just learn.
Right.
And by the way, own it when you do. Don't just try to hide it.
Right. No, I think that's been the thing where, critical thinking, I'm sure you've heard that around in the educational space. We want folks to be critical thinkers, but you sit them in a room and you make them passive learners. They're not applying. They're not critically thinking. And so it's almost like you're kind of like paralyzing them to actually work in a system where you're saying, hey, go try something. They don't know what to do because they haven't been able to apply and use their knowledge base, which is an adult learning theory. Use your own knowledge base to the learning setting.
Yeah, it drives me nuts when I see my kids working on homework and I'm just like, hey, what are you doing? Oh, I'm studying for this test. Oh, tell me about it. Oh, I got to memorize this, and this. I'm like, why?
Oh, Scott. Yeah.
Why? I can literally pick up my phone and ask it, hey, what's the answer to X? And it'll give it to me. You really don't have to memorize that stuff.
No.
I think one of my favorite classes in undergrad, I was a psychology major. One of my favorite classes was abnormal psych. Our final exam was we watched interviews of people, psychologists interviewing people, and then we had to basically diagnose which condition we thought they had based on their answers to the questions. And, I'm sure we all probably completely messed it up and didn't get the right stuff, but we were having to think, we were having to analyze in real time.
Right.
Yeah, you had to know basic, like, hey, this is what this disorder, here's the elements of this disorder. Here's the elements of this disorder. Yeah, you got to know some of that stuff. You got to memorize that stuff. But then the real part is applying it, because the application is the hard part. Anybody can memorize stuff. Given enough time and pressure, you can memorize stuff. But it's actually taking that and applying it to whatever situation that it relates to. That's where the next level thinking comes in.
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. And it's interesting because, again, the expectation of folks in the workplace is to be able to apply, right? Because you're going to be trained on whatever, situational factors exist in the context of wherever company, whatever industry. But your role as a staff member, whatever, is to take that, synthesize it, make it meaningful, right? And apply it. And it's actually pretty fun, but unfortunately, and that's, I think, what drives me is the fact that for so long, the educational system has been built on just passive learning, and from higher ed on down. And I represent someone who has been on both sides. I've been in industry. I've done industry training. I've done higher ed training, and I just offer grace and pacing to let's reimagine things. Let's get out here and you're a subject matter expert. So you're amazing. The professors, the subject matter experts in industry. Now it's time for you to elevate others and get them to not only know the subject matter, but how to make it shine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, when you're working with these people, how do you do that? How do you go to a college professor who's lectured semester after semester and given out tests? Maybe there's some application questions on the test, but how do you tell them, hey, look, that's probably not the best way to help students learn this information?
Gingerly.
Well, yeah, obviously gingerly, right? Especially if we're talking at that level, there might be some ego involved, right? Or there might just be a flat out, I don't want to be doing this. I just want to be doing my research, but I'm required to teach.
That's right.
And so how do you tell them, hey, if you would redesign the way you do this and include more of this, less of this, like, what do you tell them?
So that's great. So I tell them first, again, the grace and pace, literally, that you have to sort of lean into taking things slowly. Because at the end of the day, I don't want them memorizing things either, right? I will come to them with a suggestion, but they have to make it work for their situational factors. So it's a slow process. It's a process of adoption and making sure that it's going to work within whatever it is you're doing. So it's not a formula. And sometimes I have to work through that part. I'm going to be teaching X. Tell me the best way to engage students. Okay, well, there's other questions you have to answer, right? So it's a lot of walking with them side by side, getting into their objectives and getting into their real objectives. And I always say, reimagine learning, because I say to them, what are your real hopes and dreams here? Right? It is not content delivery. That's not your hopes and dreams. You're kind of in that setting and that's kind of where you live, but that's not your hopes and dreams. You have an idea of the person you want to walk away after this class. You have an idea. Let's work on that. So I get around all the you must do this by getting them to just think about what they really want to do. And we go from there.
So especially when you get into the public school setting, maybe college kind of works this way too. It's been a minute since I've been there. But they say, okay, great. I want to pace. I want to be patient, but I have to meet all of these I forget what they call them. Standards. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
thank you. All these standards so that my students can pass the TOS test or whatever standardized test the state is using at that
Mm-hmm.
point in time. And so like, yeah, that's great. I would love to be able to do these things, but they got to be able to check the right boxes on this test, or that really hurts us as me as a teacher and then us as a school district.
No, that's fair. That is fair. But I will tell you this. Now, my audience is not K-12. I will tell you that. But what I will tell you is that a lot of this work in active learning and engagement started in the K-12 arena.
Yeah.
The K-12 teachers are really, really working hard to engage their students. I've seen it. And honestly, I get my motivation from them because their load is extreme.
Right.
Right? But yet they are constantly going to PD. They're learning new ways to engage. They're learning new ways to get their students active, to get them to do things and be autonomous. So but all within the framework of, we know we got that test coming. So I give much respect to the K-12 arena.
So you go into an organization and they say, hey, we need to put together a training program for X.
Mm-hmm.
So you start looking around and you say, okay, I have an idea as to the things that they need to know. I want to design a program. How do you account for the people who couldn't care less about learning X? They're there because that's their job and they're being told to go learn X. How do you get them engaged and flip that switch to where they're like, oh, you know what? This is helpful. I do want to be here. I do want to learn these things.
So that's a great question. And so I've seen environments where that is kind of cultivated. So there's that, right? There's environments where training is not supported. And sometimes you get folks that kind of check out, right? Or training is rote and it's not centered on, it's just not done well. Mm-hmm. Okay. And you are going to have some people who are going to check out. I mean, that's the reality of it.
Right.
But the way I work with clients, I'll tell them, okay, we've got to take care of our existing human resources. So for example, you can develop training. I don't know. I've had this situation happen to me. I've been a person on a team that, that shined. Okay. And my boss tapped me on my shoulder and he said, you're going to go do some training. This literally happened to me. Right. And at the time I was really nerding out, working on my programs, on my software development, my flow charts, me and my computer, we were having a blast. I had no intentions of going out and training and doing anything. And I was voluntold to do that.
Right. You gotta love being voluntold.
And I'm getting to the point, and I was nervous. I didn't know how to do, but I did it. And it was terrible. But it was exciting for me to be able to think that I could do that, but it was terrible. And so my point is this: you've got people who have knowledge. You want to honor your existing knowledge. So for those people who are, sitting back kind of nervous about this or just saying, I really don't want to learn, you got to get them engaged. You got to get them engaged, number one, to say, okay, maybe I do have some expert knowledge or knowledge about something that I can train others on my team. But what you want to do before you do that, you want to get them some kind of training, something to help them either be better presenters, be a facilitator, be engaging. So you can actually utilize your human capital. Now I'm not saying go out and pick the person who's literally hiding under the desk.
Right. Yeah.
But you can actually gain traction with some that are nervous about all of this by just getting them involved and helping them realize what their strengths are and maybe give them opportunities to share with some training.
Yeah. It's amazing how many people, based on my experience, they have the knowledge. They're the ones that shine. They want to impart that knowledge to others, but they're scared to death of something.
Right.
A lot of times it's speaking in front of people.
Right.
And a lot of times it's imposter syndrome. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm good at this, but I don't have any business teaching it to somebody. I'm not that smart, or I'm not that experienced. And so I think those are your
gold.
Buried gold, right? You take them out, you help them understand, like, no, you are the real deal. You do have this knowledge and you are 110% capable of teaching others. I think of our head of operations, when she came to work for us as a paralegal, she was as shy as the day is long. Now she's our head of operations and presenting, she's the one who's training people. She's the one who is presenting at our team meetings. She's the one who's doing this, that, and the other. She started Salina Young Professionals, for crying out loud. She started a group. And so you see that, and you're like, that's what you want to accomplish. You have somebody who has the ability, the capacity, the want to,
right? And
you take that person and you shine them up,
right,
and get them the trainings where they can go out and be a spokesperson too. I heard you say, when I first asked the question, you're going to have some organizations that have this training built in, and you're going to have some that aren't. So what that sounds like to me is a lot of it has to do with the culture of the business.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about that.
Yeah. So that's a great question. So I've worked with small companies who don't have training procedures at all, right? And
the majority, I would imagine. I don't know if you work with them, but I can tell you right now, the majority do not have any kind of training protocols. It's like somebody new starts, okay, who's training them?
Right.
What are we going to tell them?
Right. And the team, they're suffering. The water cooler conversation is we need training all the time. So retention and satisfaction is not good. And so what you do is when you have those kinds of companies, you say to them, all right, obviously training is not on their radar and they may not understand the ROI, and it's fine. Right. But you've got some spokespersons on the team that you can work with, bring them in and start slow. Start with those people, those shiners, those people who have knowledge and they're willing to train. And you say, okay, we'll do some training with them. What are some of y'all's pain points? Right. And who can help with that? And you don't have to have this official rigid training. You got to go slow. You don't have to have this rigid training program, but you start small with just thinking about the benefits of doing some sort of training. And like you said, you're going to repeat these processes. So you might as well start with, thinking about it now, getting some in-house capital to come in and support that and go with it.
Yeah. And
then for those companies that have training, you run into this training that folks are just dying to have to do, right? It's not...
it's boring.
It's boring. It's right. It's not engaging. And so you can take that training. So that's why we do some design stuff. And we do the design stuff to help. Again, it's almost the same kind. What are your hopes and dreams? Does this training match that? Probably not. It's a check, fill in the blank type of situation. So really unpacking what your hopes and dreams are. I think the biggest issue with training, Scott, is the set it and forget it. People think that we're going to develop this training program and we're going to be using that until we turn the lights off. But it's not rinse and repeat. You've got to figure out how to improve it. You got to figure out how to weave in new technology, i.e. AI, right? You have to learn how to remember that it's a cycle. It's not just to set it and forget it, because your participants, your staff will know that and they will not want to do it.
Yeah, we have all of our systems and processes and training and all that kind of stuff in a database. And it was almost unmanageable because we update things so often. Mm-hmm. And it's like we were spending as much time updating our processes and procedures and then updating them again. It was just like, okay, well, why don't we just do it once a month once we figure out what we want to do or less? And then two, I think where a lot of people can get lost is they do that. They have this program and there's no human interaction to it. Right. And without that human interaction, you're not developing that connection with the company.
Correct.
You're not going to connect with a computer. I don't care how good your training program is. You're just not going to connect.
That's right. And I know nowadays, we're moving away from, well, we're not moving away, but we're moving back into some face-to-face experience modality. That's the thing about training is diversity. You've got to be thinking about some online training modules work. You might have some face-to-face things that work. So you may even have like a hybrid mix, right? This is the situation with training, but you have to start with embracing the idea that this is not your old school type training where you come in, you do something, you learn, and you've learned it and you're done. That's where we're not. I just think that's the part that's not very effective. And so you build all that in when you're planning. You build in time for growth and things of that nature.
In my experience, you kind of have different types of employees too. You have the employees who want to grow. They're looking at a career. They want to climb the ladder. Those are the ones who, if you continuously pour really good training into them, your ROI is massive, right? They continue to develop. They're your next level leaders. They, stay with the firm. They're not leaving to go elsewhere because they love that you're continuing to pour into them. And then you have some other employees who are just like, no, I like what I do. I'm comfortable with it. And, something changes, I'll learn it, but I don't want to learn to grow to the next level. And that used to really frustrate me because I'm not that way. Yeah. But, with experience and more gray hair, I realized, hey, look, not everybody's like me. Not everybody's like those other employees. Some employees are perfectly fine. They want to come in. They want to start at 8. They want to leave at 5, and then they want to go have their life, and they're perfectly happy doing that. And they do a fantastic job while they're there. Yeah. Like, that's fine. Mm-hmm. You don't have to push people to constantly excel. That is perfectly fine. And I think when you're talking training programs, you can kind of get into trouble with those kinds of, with both kinds of employees if you're not feeding them the right, stuff to help them grow, or the ones you're trying to push too far.
Sure. And what came to my mind is I actually had a conversation with a company, and they have probably quite a few people that fall into that I'm good with where I'm at. And their sentiment to me was, we are good with where we're at. And they didn't feel like there was really any need for training. So they focused highly on those that weren't, amenable to training, and just left the others behind. So there's a balance to that. And yeah, you're right. You are absolutely right. But growth is real. Yeah. And that's, and even with AI, something, like you said, you have a tough time with that. I do too, because I just believe that everyone can lock into some sort of goal for growth. I just believe that. Now, I'm not saying that that's the case, but I just think that, there are people out there that you can actually get to think about this growth stuff. But, for the most part, you got to plan for those who are willing participants. I mean, you really do. Yeah, you do.
All right. Well, you've brought up the game changer as of late, AI, a couple of times now. When you look at AI and you look how it affects what you do, where do you see these training programs and the utilization of AI this time next year, 3 years, 5 years from now? And 5 years from now, the world may look completely different. Yeah. We'll see.
Yeah. Well, so I like to start with my definition of AI. I've been working with algorithms and automation because that's what I did with technology.
Yeah, AI means a lot more to you than it does to me, clearly.
And so the way I describe AI as being different from automation and all the things and algorithms that I've known and love is that it can remember things, right? And it can develop patterns. But we are also nuanced. Humans are just very nuanced. Yes. And I think that while AI will definitely remember things and it can crank out some amazing information, we're going to be ahead of them just because we have brains and we're nuanced. And so I actually, one of my train the trainer programs, I actually popped into ChatGPT and just said, why is it not really smart to use AI to develop your training? And boy, did I get a handful of
it. Just kept writing and writing
and
writing.
The biggest thing that I got was the nuance factor. AI is not driven on things that are contextual. I mean, yes, the generative AI and all the things that, like I say, they can remember the patterns, but we are just so nuanced. And so, and I guess I have to keep hope alive with my field, right? That there's going to be, like I said, the hopes and dreams, the one-to-one interaction with folks. How everybody has their situational factors that make it really close to being, a path, some sort of common path. But there's this one thing that you didn't think about. And I will tell you, my experience with technology has been that folks tend to set it and forget it. And that's where you get in trouble. So this phenomenon of, technology taking over things has been around. And what I've been preaching to folks is don't do that. Do not let technology drive the bus. Don't let it do that.
It's interesting. We just got a link for a demo for an intake AI. So somebody calls a law firm or personal injury law firm, And I've been interested in this for a while just because I think it's so fascinating to see, okay, at what point are they going to be able to develop these AI phone answering systems to where I can't tell that it's not a human on the other side of the line? And so we did a demo today, and at first I was like, oh, this is pretty good. But when you start getting into the details, especially when you start getting into the injuries, you lose the connection. You lose the connection. It may have, it may express the right empathy, but then 2 questions later, it expresses the empathy in the exact same way. And it's like, ooh, that's not good. And what it's going to do is going to drive people away that catch on to that, or that's important to them, right? Which, I mean, when you're dealing with injury victims,
careful.
Be very careful, right? You want to be a human first and foremost.
Right.
And then worry about the other stuff. Like, hey, what can I do for you right now? Yeah. I am so sorry you're going through this. And genuinely so. As a human being, when I'm talking to somebody on the other line, I'm trying to put myself in their shoes. What if this happened to my daughter? What if this happened to my wife? What if this happened to somebody I love? And so they're not there yet. Will they be able to? I don't know. I have no idea. They're way further than I thought they would be, a couple of years ago.
Sure.
But I just think that's really, really interesting how far they've been able to come, yet still can't match that human connection.
That's right. I agree. And again, when I work with folks, because it looked like you said, when you initially started using that tool, it looked like it was going to be amazing. Mm-hmm. And the time that it's going to take for you to really work through all of that, people aren't ready for that. They think that it's this magic formula sometimes.
Right.
And I mean, that again, that's just been some of the feelings that I've got, or the impressions that I've gotten from people about technology, as it were. Like, this is just going to make my life so much easier. I can go hang out. And that's
no.
Right. And that's just not the case. And so you have to think about, with AI adoption, the work may not be on the front end, but it could be on the back end, making sure that everything is representing you the way you want it to represent you, making sure that there are no bugs, and contingency plans. We got to talk about that stuff when we're working with any kind of technology. What's your backup plan when it failed? And it's going to fail. That's life. It's going to fail.
Yeah. And as you said, it learns.
It learns.
And it doesn't always learn the right way.
No.
It can start picking up bad habits and then start learning from those bad habits. And all of a sudden you listen in on a call and you're going, good Lord, what has happened? This is awful.
Right. And you talk about, I'm like your business, medical fields, there's some intricacies there you got to really be careful with, laws and, things of that nature.
Yeah. And I think, we see it too still in the self-driving vehicles, right? The autonomous vehicles. There's some things that they're better at than humans. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. They can stop faster. They can react faster. They can see certain things faster. But here's the thing. It doesn't yet, anyway, from what I've seen, it's not fully capable of anticipating like a human, right? We see a shadow that goes behind the school bus and something within us says, caution, that could be a kid. And then all of a sudden the kid darts out, right? AI is not picking that kind of stuff up yet. Will it? Maybe. I don't know. I don't know what they're working on and whatnot, but there's just something about the human brain, its ability to anticipate certain things based on experience. Now, if we were great at it, then I'd be out of a job because nobody would ever run into each other, right? Which would be perfectly fine by me, by the way. Sure. I would love it if nobody ever got hurt again. But I think there's always going to be something human that has to be involved in whatever it is.
And I think that's the part that we ought to be thinking about.
Yeah.
We ought to be thinking about, how can we, someone has said, how can we outpace AI? Well, I don't know if that's going to happen in that way, right. But how can you plan to work alongside AI? Mm-hmm. And I think that's where I'm headed with my development for training. And I'm also trying to educate folks on just really how to use it.
Yeah. And if you're not figuring out how to leverage it, then you have your head in the sand and you're going to be one of the first ones it takes out. Right. And so if you can leverage it to get better, get more efficient, be able to do more to help others, then you're going to be all right.
Yeah. And as a small business owner, it's paramount for me to do that because that's, AI will come for folks like me first.
Absolutely. Well, they're already trying to come after lawyers as well. I can promise you that. They're making up cases right now, so I think we still got a ways to go.
Yeah.
But yeah, the hallucinated cases, we have lawyers all over the United States getting in trouble for submitting briefs with fake cases in them, which is such a huge no-no.
And that's a training, right? You would think that shouldn't be a training issue, but it is. Let's just give grace. I mean, right. The stuff that AI produces really looks so beautiful and amazing, but you got to really dig in there.
Yeah. I can only imagine, how much more successful we would be if I got to make up my own cases and what they said. That would be unreal.
Exactly. And with training, authenticity is paramount.
Sure.
You've got to, because those people that will check out, they're the ones that will have like this, this ability to detect authenticity real fast.
Yeah.
And that is bad on engagement and retention and transformation.
Yeah. I mean, you go to any trial lawyer seminar and one word you will hear over and over and over is authenticity. If you are not authentic, if you are not open, if you are in any kind of way seeming to the jury to not have full credibility, then you lose. Period. Because they will not believe you.
Yeah.
And, I think as trial lawyers, that's something that we continue to have to strive to be is more authentic. And, that's as humans. For an AI bot or whatever to be able to be authentic when it's not a human, that's got to be so much more difficult. All right. Like I said, this is going to fly by. We got time for one more question.
All right.
So give me your top 3 books that you recommend or that you love to gift to other people.
All right. So I have the author for one, and the one is The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks.
Okay.
And then I also love this book. Oh, I know Adam Grant did Think Again.
Yeah.
I love that book. That's a great book.
That's right up your alley for sure.
Exactly, for training. And then the other book that I like, because I probably, I was able to relate to it, is The Accidental Instructional Designer.
Oh, all right.
And that's a good...
It's quite the title.
It's quite the title. And that is why I do what I do, because a lot of people are accidental trainers.
Yeah.
And here I am to support you. I recognize that a lot of us were, like I said, voluntold to go train without the proper training. And we do it. We do our best. And there's just a movement toward let's be better.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Dr. Hammonds. I appreciate it. And thank you so much for everyone for tuning in to this episode of the Driven Crowd Podcast. We'll see you next time.